챕터 1. 문장의 기본 구조.
If you don't have the power to change yourself, then nothing will change around you.
There is always something better out there if you're willing to work for it.
Unless you try to do something beyond what you have already mastered, you will never grow.
Not everything that counts can be counted, and not everything that can be counted counts.
A journey of 1,000 miles must begin with a single step.
Pink Floyd's The Dark Side of the Moon stayed on the Billboard chart for 741 weeks.
Have patience. All things are difficult before they become easy.
There's a saying, yesterday is history, tomorrow is a mystery, but today is a gift. That is why it is called the present.
We are like tea bags. We don't know our own strength until we're in hot water.
I love the man that can smile in trouble, that can gather strength from distress, and that can grow brave by reflection.
A wise man may look ridiculous in the company of fools.
If you feel threatened every time a perceived rival does well, remind yourself of your own strengths and successes.
I stand on my desk to remind myself that we must constantly look at things in a different way.
Advertisers change people's thinking by using language which appeals to emotions.
Repeat anything often enough and it will start to become you.
We should stop supporting the hunting of our endangered species.
Being happy means that you realize there are times that you will be unhappy and recognize that life sometimes stinks.
I have seen firsthand that being president doesn't change who you are. It reveals who you are.
We're not perfect, but that doesn't mean we can lay some of our baggage on someone else.
If you have trouble talking to your parents, write them a letter and put it on their pillow. Parents love letters like this and will probably keep them forever.
Many businesses send future customers free gifts or samples in order to promote their products.
Adversity frequently gives one an opportunity to discover one's abilities.
Summarize the ideas you have been learning in one sentence. Doing this offers you a good baseline of understanding.
All the wealth of the world could not buy you a friend. It could not pay you for the loss of one either.
You know your children are growing up when they stop asking you where they came from and refuse to tell you where they're going.
If all sides of a rectangle have the same length, we call it a square.
In order to change an existing paradigm, don't struggle to change it. Instead, create a new model and make the old one obsolete.
Keep your friends close, but your enemies closer.
A foolish man thinks himself wise, but a wise man considers himself foolish.
Before the game started, the instructor reminded us of a few simple rules.
Clear your mind of can't.
The website provides one-person households with easy cooking recipes.
Do not compare yourself with those above you.
The moment you blame anyone for anything, your relationships and your personal power deteriorate.
Eskimos use refrigerators to keep food from freezing.
It takes training to be able to distinguish a replica from an original work of art.
Many a movie or play owes its success to the supporting cast performances.
챕터 2. 주어의 이해.
Not wearing a hijab is a sin in Islam. Everything except the hands and face has to be covered.
To read critically means to read analytically, which means to question and to think about the written material in front of you.
That pollution will be getting worse is obvious.
Kids do best with a good caretaker. Whether that's a nanny, parent, or daycare doesn't really matter in the long run.
In the province of the mind, what one believes to be true either is true or becomes true.
Who built the pyramids is a question that has been asked for millennia.
Whatever does not destroy me makes me stronger.
Some books useful for students preparing for the competitive exams were procured in the school library.
A friendship founded on business is better than a business founded on friendship.
People who are often in a hurry imagine they are energetic, when in most cases they are simply inefficient.
Just like a convenience store, apps or websites that specialize in convenience are more popular.
Devoting some fraction of leisure time to continuing education could do much to raise the level of civilization.
Whoever has the device that is causing the interruption must silence it immediately.
Negative advertising in political campaigns isn't desirable. It creates the impression that all politicians are corrupt or incompetent or both.
It is difficult to do something creative when you are hungry or shaking from cold, because all of your energy has to be focused on getting what you lack.
It is absurd that a man should rule others who cannot rule himself.
With such mind-blowing scenes, it is no wonder why this 3D film was such a success.
It's no use wishing for the impossible.
We had fine weather, but before long it clouded over.
Has it happened that two heavenly bodies collided in space in any known galaxy in recent history?
It is necessary for people entering the laboratory to wear protective clothing.
If you dare to take the initiative in self-revelation, the other person is much more likely to reveal secrets to you.
Homemade meals can be healthy because they allow you to control the amount of salt and oils you use.
It is better to suffer wrong than to do it, and happier to be sometimes cheated than not to trust.
Recess should be a time for kids to have a break from the structure of a school day, to release energy on their own terms, and socialize with their friends.
Tipping is a way of expressing your satisfaction with the services. So it's polite of you to tip, but impolite of the staff to expect it.
Samuel Johnson said that the value of every story depends on its being true.
Processed foods cause younger people to have different sensations of taste from the older generation.
A more expensive tennis racket will not make it possible for you to be a better player.
Crying when you're sad or stressed out, rather than holding it back, will make it possible for you to be healthier.
Reading allows us to travel to times, places, and situations that we might not otherwise experience.
Little did the writer, the director, and the producer know that the drama would become a major success.
Among the things you can give and still keep are your word, a smile, and a grateful heart.
With great power comes great responsibility.
챕터 3. 목적어의 이해.
Don't choose to waste your life on guilt about the past or concern for the future.
In perfectly formal writing, you should avoid using so as a synonym for very.
There are times when we agree to do something simply because a loved one asks.
If you plan to go to an American university, you will need to learn how to write fairly well, for there will be many essay assignments.
We don't like to say no, and people don't like to hear it. However, we should not postpone delivering bad news, because a quick response is almost always appreciated in rejection.
Consider talking to a counselor if you are feeling depressed, anxious, or so preoccupied with a problem that you feel it is hard to enjoy life.
When the number of students per classroom rises beyond 30, teachers often admit struggling to maintain order, let alone pursuing the quality of instruction.
Life becomes infinitely easier when we remember to thank others for their acts of kindness.
Please remember staying at the Palm Beach Hotel, especially the high-quality service.
Don't forget to praise others when they need support.
Don't forget promising to get back home early in the evening.
We regret to inform you that the shipment will be delayed.
When offered a new opportunity or challenge, you are much less likely to regret saying yes, and more likely to regret turning it down.
Stop using "I don't care how long I live" as an excuse for bad health habits.
When you try to combat stress with food, you'll want more and won't be able to control your eating.
If there's something you want to learn, try teaching it to someone else.
More people are realizing music videos can bring out the color of the singers and their songs.
If a thing of beauty needs additional interpretation by someone other than the creator, then I question whether it has fulfilled its purpose.
For more than a century, psychoanalysts have wondered if dreams are a reflection of upcoming realities.
People who can project themselves into the future can get the most out of their lives right now because they see where their lives are leading them.
People forget how fast you did a job, but they remember how well you did it.
Do what you can with what you've got where you are.
Choose whatever you like for the subject of your essay in the contest.
Motivation is important for good studying. When you are motivated, you will find it easy to stay focused over a period of time.
Few people think it possible that they may be mistaken.
People in Western countries considered it polite for men to kiss the hand of a lady.
In the early Roman Empire, the rich believed it natural to donate some of their fortune to society and look after the less privileged, which is called noblesse oblige nowadays.
Although keeping your aims to yourself helps ease the fear of failure, it also makes it easy to avoid changing your life and drift back into old habits and routines.
Make it a rule of life never to regret and never to look back. Regret is an appalling waste of energy. You can't build on it.
A famous saying has it that the winners of war write history.
Parents often blame themselves for the way their children behave.
Resist the temptation to tie yourself to exam scores. They are only feedback about progress, not a measure of knowledge.
When you meet a complete stranger at a party, the easiest way to break the ice is to introduce yourself and say how you know the host.
I recommend that you take care of the minutes, for the hours will take care of themselves.
No man is wise enough by himself.
Guests are encouraged to avail themselves of the full range of hotel facilities.
One thing my father left to me, and it was more valuable than a fortune.
What one has not experienced, one will never understand in print.
Those books which have made a lasting contribution to man's quest for truth, we call great books.
One of the functions of a college education is to enable the college graduate to read with understanding and appreciation articles and books which otherwise he could not so read.
Laboratory tools make easier the job of scientists and their experiments.
챕터 4. 보어의 이해.
Teens who are confident have a good sense of self and become happy adults.
Leadership is getting someone to do what they don't want to do, to achieve what they want to achieve.
Your work is going to fill a large part of your life, and the only way to be truly satisfied is to do what you believe is great work.
Until the patient recovers from the surgery, all you have to do is wait and see.
The trouble with most of us is that we would rather be ruined by praise than saved by criticism.
In a car accident, one of the questions the police ask is whether the driver was using a cell phone while driving.
The present is what slips by us while we're pondering the past and worrying about the future.
His calm determination won him the respect of his teammates, who elected him captain.
I consider this one of the most amazing and inspirational ads I have ever seen.
I always found him a sincere person who would stick by his word and always did his work.
Confronting your fears, paradoxically, makes you a far happier and more productive person.
The dish looked very healthy and fresh. probably because of the colorful vegetables.
Time is of the essence. Live as though life is short, because it is.
Success isn't about how much money you make. It's about the difference you make in people's lives.
More often than not, the behavior that drives parents the most crazy is the identical behavior the parents had as children.
Studying in multiple locations has been proven to actually help the brain retain information.
It took me several days to read this book because I kept crying.
Diplomatic discussions were planned to persuade the rival nations to return to the negotiating table.
Experience is that marvelous thing that enables you to recognize a mistake when you make it again.
I heard the bell ring and saw everyone pour into the halls.
You cannot be mad at somebody who makes you laugh.
We can't help but have things go through our minds about others. We just need to be careful about saying much or accusing anyone.
It is necessary in science to have many people making many observations of the same phenomenon.
I'm convinced that the only thing that kept me going was that I loved what I did. You've got to find what you love.
Treat people as if they were what they ought to be, and you help them become what they are capable of being.
Good leaders are like baseball umpires. They go practically unnoticed when doing their jobs right.
The mayor had the recent bank heist properly investigated by the police.
Disneyland does not sell chewing gum. Walt Disney did not want guests bothered by stepping on gum purchased in the park.
I had my account broken into, so I had to reset the password and regain access to my account.
A way to get things done more efficiently and get better results is to do the right thing at the right time of day.
The superstar kept her head hidden underneath her hat and a pair of sunglasses as she chatted on her mobile phone.
Work with this copy and leave the original untouched so that you can go back to it if you have any problems.
When the kitten saw her face reflected in the mirror, she immediately jumped on it.
In case you hear a kind word spoken about a friend, tell him or her so.
챕터 5 시제
Brainy Smurf, in the animated movie The Smurfs, wears glasses and often lectures to the rest of the Smurfs without really knowing what he is talking about.
As the world's population grows, more and more people are living in potentially dangerous volcanic areas.
The reason oil floats on water is because it is less dense than water.
Reconstruction of the bridge finally begins next weekend and runs through April.
The secret of success in life is for a man to be ready for his opportunity when it comes.
None of your ideas will change the world if you keep them inside of your head.
As soon as you are off a diet, the weight will come back plus more. This is the so-called yo-yo effect.
Research has recently found that lavender is among the best smells to help lower anxiety and induce sleep.
Anyone who has never made a mistake has never tried anything new.
Time travel has been a common plot device in science fiction since the late 19th century.
Some birds, such as ostriches and penguins, have lost their ability to fly, so their body structure is specialized for running or swimming today.
I have been clearing out my attic all evening and just discovered my old album.
I've been thinking about buying a new smartphone for a while, but I haven't decided which one to get.
Supernovas may appear to be stars which have just exploded, but in actuality they had already exploded millions of years before.
Starting a clothing store had always been one of his dreams, but he'd never told anyone about it.
King Tutankhamen was the last king of a powerful family that had ruled Egypt for centuries.
They had put plaster on the wall for fire resistance, and it prevented the building from collapsing when there was a fire.
The marathoner was out of breath when he reached the finish line because he had been running for more than 2 hours.
When he returned to his country after a 20-year absence, he realized that everything had changed completely.
If China's coal use continues to increase as predicted, by 2040, China will have consumed more than a third of global reserves.
The relationships people share with siblings are often the longest-lasting ones they will ever have experienced.
When the mountaineers get back to the base, they'll have been in the snowstorm for 2 days.
All the leaves will have fallen before you come here, so you won't be able to see the leaves turning red.
The first game of chess is believed to have originated in northern India.
A good book challenges us and changes us. We are never quite the same after having read it.
To have doubted one's own first principles is the mark of a civilized man.
The gain in self-confidence from having accomplished a tiresome labor is immense.
챕터 6. 조동사와 태.
If you take this pill, it might stop the cold or at least lessen the severity.
She can't be hanging around with her friends this late at night. She must be at home sleeping.
The brave may not live forever, but the cautious do not live at all.
You could hardly make a friend in a year, but you could lose one in an hour.
When you encounter an unfamiliar word, contextual clues should help you make a guess about the word's meaning.
A wise person ought to try to avoid feelings of guilt by avoiding the acts that cause them.
Connecting with other people facing the same problems would help you feel less alone.
Familiarity breeds contempt. This proverb suggests that a closer acquaintance with someone will result in a lessening of respect.
You must have been in such a hurry this morning to wear your shirt the wrong side out.
Readers of the magazine cannot have failed to notice the eye-catching advertisement in the last issue.
Our backgrounds and circumstances may have influenced who we are, but we are responsible for who we become.
A new article suggests that misuse of aspirin might have caused the high death rate during the 1918 to 1919 influenza pandemic.
The clause, think different, is grammatically inaccurate. Different should have been differently. But Steve Jobs insisted on different, as well as the expression, think big.
He is in an official position, and he should not have made such an imprudent statement.
Animal protection groups insist that the rights of animals be acknowledged and respected.
In an email to his mother, he suggested that she consider selling her homemade jam on the internet.
If a person is attempting to give up caffeine, it is recommended that he do so gradually to reduce the symptoms of withdrawal.
It is necessary that you exercise continuously in order to be in good shape.
In order to speak and write the English language correctly, it is imperative that the fundamental principles of the grammar be mastered.
It is certainly surprising that such a highly reputable magazine should print such a childish article.
Shampoo and other hair products used to cause trouble for my skin, so I use fragrance-free items.
My mentor would often tell me, the difference between a dreamer and a doer is a decision.
Organisms cannot help adapting to change in order to survive.
There were many volunteers at the disaster, and they cannot be praised too highly.
What we think we know today may well be wrong tomorrow.
You may as well borrow a person's money as his time.
I would rather walk with a friend in the dark than alone in the light.
An intransitive verb is not followed by an object and can never be used in the passive.
The goal of many advertisements is to create discontent that can be satisfied only by using the product.
If you don't know yourself, you could be swayed by what others think you should be, think, and do.
I was born and taken good care of by my parents, raised in favorable circumstances.
Believe it or not, so much attention was paid to making cars faster or lighter in the past that little or no attention was paid to the safety of the driver.
We believe that each individual should be given the opportunity to develop and achieve to the maximum extent possible.
We must remember that when traveling is made too easy and comfortable, its spiritual meaning is lost.
Venus is called Earth's twin because Venus and Earth are very similar in size, mass, and composition.
Things do not happen. Things are made to happen.
From as early as 3 years old, children can be seen to show an interest in masculine or feminine toys, games, and activities.
One importer was recently caught selling 442 tons of Chinese rice as Korean grown to wholesalers and retailers across the nation.
A mother whale and her young calf were found washed ashore on the coast of Peru.
The environmental impact of radioactive waste disposal has not been fully evaluated, and waste management is lacking.
Social media is being used to promote companies' products and raise brand awareness.
Recently, trans fats have been associated with higher rates of heart disease and with higher chances of getting cancer and other health problems.
One of the most important things in communication is to hear what is not being said.
It is said that books are better than the movies created from books.
It is believed that small fish cluster together in order to confuse their predators and thereby protect themselves from harm.
It is not always enough to be forgiven by others. Sometimes you have to learn to forgive yourself.
We should look for the opportunity in every difficulty instead of being paralyzed at the thought of the difficulty in every opportunity.
The Columbia University study of 1,000 American teenagers aged between 12 and 17 years found that 1 in 5 teenagers claimed to have been bullied online.
Every person has a right to his point of view, even if it seems strange or totally absurd to you, without being put down or ridiculed.
The passage of time has been kind on Heinsa. Despite having been built in 802 AD, the temple shines brightly due to several renovations.
챕터 7. 가정법.
People would worry less about what others think of them if they only realized how seldom they do.
There are 400 billion stars in our galaxy alone. If only 1 out of a million of those stars had intelligent life, there would be literally millions of civilizations out there.
If a 1-meter sea level rise were to take place today, it would displace 7 million persons in India.
Were life easy, then it would be boring.
Children wish they were grown-ups to do anything they want. Grown-ups wish they were children to have no responsibilities.
Most of us spend our lives as if we had another one in the bank.
Camera phones don't understand privacy, and don't forget either. It's time we developed a new etiquette for the digital age.
They used to say, I could have been a professional ballet dancer if I'd had the training.
The article in the magazine imagines what John Lennon's life would have been like had he survived an assassin's bullet.
Had Christopher Columbus correctly calculated the actual size of the Earth, he would never have tried to reach Asia by sailing west.
When we opened the door, everything was all over the place, as if a blender had been turned on in the room.
Many people wish they had been born with leadership abilities, because we all have dreams to make a difference in this world.
If hunters had not killed elephants so cruelly for food and ivory for many years, they would have much larger populations nowadays.
If William the Conqueror hadn't invaded England in 1066, the English language would probably have much fewer words of French origin.
Without the dark, we would never see the stars.
The atmosphere plays an important role. Otherwise, millions of meteoroids would fall to the Earth.
Suppose you visited another planet. Your mass would be the same as on Earth, but your weight would be different.
Supposing you had a friend who doesn't seem your type of person. How would you tell them that you don't want to be their friend?
Honeybee pollination is so important that we would not have 1/3 of our food but for bees.
I would not be where I am today if it had not been for his support, advice, and encouragement.
Allocated a larger budget, the film could have been much better than it was, but it does provide decent entertainment.
People say stupid things on the internet, but wouldn't dare say those things out loud in public.
Intensive reading might have helped the concept to be more easily understood.
챕터 8. 형용사적 수식어 1.
Marry someone a lot like you. Similarity in core values and background is a key to a happy marriage.
Perhaps it is good to have a beautiful mind, but an even greater gift is to discover a beautiful heart.
Human cultures are too different to permit the meanings available to one speaker to be perfectly shared with another.
Ozone, or triatomic oxygen, is a highly unstable gas located in the upper stratosphere of the Earth.
Visualization is a tool useful for aiding analysis, exploration, comprehension, and understanding.
Doing something meaningful is what we are all ultimately searching for.
Sacrifice whatever is necessary to spend the maximum amount of time possible with your children.
Don't let the noise of others' opinions drown out your own inner voice. Have the courage to follow your heart and intuition.
A surprising result from the marketing report shows that nearly 2 out of every 3 college students never scan the QR codes found on ads.
We pick our friends, not only because they are enjoyable company to play with, but because they understand us for who we are.
Progress occurs when courageous, skillful leaders seize the opportunity to change things for the better.
The first requisite for success is the ability to apply your physical and mental energies to one problem, incessantly without growing weary.
Most of the trouble in the world is caused by people wanting to be important.
A closed mind is like a closed book, just a block of wood.
A man who does not know a foreign language is ignorant of his own.
Only those who dare to fail greatly can ever achieve greatly.
Golf is a game whose aim is to hit a very small ball into a small hole, with weapons singularly ill-designed for the purpose.
The heart of a mother is a deep abyss at the bottom of which you will always find forgiveness.
To feel the love of people whom we love is a fire that feeds our life.
Brainstorming is a useful way to let ideas which you didn't know you had come to the surface.
I have noticed that fortune cookies say the most obvious things that people may just want to hear about themselves.
When grading diamonds, ones with imperfections that are not obviously visible to the naked eye are called eye clean.
There will be times when you are very busy and other times when it is quieter, so please be prepared to be flexible.
Passive leisure, such as watching TV or listening to music, is the time when people enjoy activities that are relaxing and that require little effort.
Fear is that little dark room where negatives are developed.
We need a new breakthrough because we're in a situation where the current solutions are not good enough.
A single reason why you can do something is worth 100 reasons why you can't.
There are many differences between how grammar is used in written English and how it is used in spoken English.
When an actor plays a scene exactly the way a director orders, it isn't acting, it's following instructions.
챕터 9. 형용사적 수식어 2.
You must cite the author you are quoting, whether you are directly quoting the author or paraphrasing the quote.
Newborn babies are immune to many diseases because they have antibodies they received from their mothers, although this immunity only lasts about a year.
20 years from now, you will be more disappointed by the things you did not do than by the ones you did.
The time you should repair the roof is when the sun is shining.
The reason most people never reach their goals is that they don't define them or ever seriously consider them as believable or achievable.
Depictions of unhealthily thin women in film, television, and advertising constantly bombard us, distorting the way we see one another and how we define a healthy body.
In science, the credit goes to the man who convinces the world, not the man to whom the idea first occurs.
Ultimately, the only power to which man should aspire is that which he exercises over himself.
If technology is created that uses less energy, that should have the same basic effect as increasing the total amount of energy available.
Forrest Gump is the story of a naive young man from Alabama with a good heart who keeps stumbling into success in spite of himself.
The heel is the part of the body that receives the most shock upon impact, especially when walking and running.
The time will come when you will doubt everything you stand for, but you must push forward and never stop.
Secondhand smoke is a smoke inhaled by people who are not themselves smoking, but who are near others who are smoking.
We stand in proper awe of a man whose thoughts move on heights far beyond our range, whose achievements can be measured only by the few who are able to follow his reasoning and challenge his conclusions.
Every single person we know who is successful at what they do is successful because they love doing it.
Start something you can do with pleasure, which requires active physical movement for your sound body and mind.
We vote for the person who we think expresses our interests best.
My father always did what he supposed was morally right, and always voted the way that he believed was right for society as a whole.
A person eats around 60,000 pounds worth of food during his life, which is the equivalent of 6 elephants.
The Korean soccer players, who won the country's first medal in the sport with a victory over Japan for bronze, came back from the Olympics with glory.
The Caribbean has been strongly influenced by African culture, but credit must be given to the neighboring countries, which contributed to the rich culture the Caribbean now has.
Life is a series of experiences, each one of which makes us bigger, even though sometimes it is hard to realize this.
Last summer, I visited Broadway, where the curtain goes up more than 10,000 times in a year.
I wonder what is going to happen on May 5th, when all planets of our solar system are in a line.
The more you like yourself, the less you are like anyone else, which makes you unique.
The secret of genius is to carry the spirit of the child into old age, which means never losing your enthusiasm.
The motor of our ingenuity is the question, does it have to be like this? From which arise political reforms, scientific developments, improved relationships, and better books.
챕터 10. 부사적 수식어 1. 부정사 중심.
If the climate continues to warm at the current rate, polar bears could disappear completely in the next 100 years.
I have no particular talent. I am merely extremely inquisitive.
Clearly, the amateur explorers didn't understand the danger of the jungle.
Don't worry that children never listen to you. Worry that they are always watching you.
During the past 600 million years, there have been 17 known ice ages on the Earth.
Many anonymous complaints about businesses that are posted in a negative way are done on purpose to make the businesses look bad.
Of the many choices he had after he graduated from university, he chose that which seemed to him the most attractive.
Much to my surprise and delight, my daughter has inherited my love of reading and likes me to read the same book over and over.
To think creatively, we must be able to look afresh at what we normally take for granted.
Sometimes in life, we have to take chances in order to make progress. It certainly takes courage to take risks.
So as to prevent any injuries at night, it is necessary that your kids be visible in the dark.
Students were no doubt relieved to hear that it was the last subject of this lecture.
The speaker felt somewhat sorry to ask a barrage of questions to his opponent, but that was what these debates were for.
I was careless to allow him to see my plan, and foolish to think he would not use it.
He must be a man of moods to change his appointments all the time.
You were considerate to provide help, since it took days for me to make my last mobile-friendly website.
Most people in developed countries are expected to live to be about 80, and life expectancies are rising every year.
The film starts with a scene where the leading actor awakens to find himself in a dark wood.
He was the director for many plays, and both of his kids grew up to be movie stars and TV show celebrities.
In the animated film Ratatouille, Remy is a young rat from the French countryside who arrives in Paris, only to find out that his cooking idol is dead.
Due to forest decline and severe drought, the villagers left their homeland, never to return.
To hear him talk about our childhoods, you'd think he was my brother.
E-publishing companies say e-books are more convenient to use than paper books.
No country has the potential to produce all the commodities at the least cost. Trade is therefore beneficial for countries to ensure the supply of their needs.
Once you are ready to truly devote your time and energy to what calls to your soul, you will find your life unimaginably enriched.
More and more people will have to wear glasses because always looking at computer monitors is likely to cause poor eyesight.
Be wise enough not to be reckless, but brave enough to take great risks.
It takes most fruit trees about 7 years before they are mature enough to produce good fruit.
After going through a really tough time, she decided that life is too short to do something you don't love.
It is apparent that the economy is growing much too slowly to put people back to work.
Red meat may be harmful, but I can't go so far as to say it causes cancer.
Your interference is, to say the least of it, out of place.
챕터 11. 부사절.
Most people choose to drive when they know their destination is within walking distance.
While one person hesitates because he feels inferior, another person is busy, making mistakes and becoming superior.
In a desert, a mirage is caused when air near the ground is hotter than air higher up.
UV exposure can nearly double when UV rays are reflected from the snow.
Cleaning your house while your kids are still growing up is like shoveling the walk before it stops snowing.
While we may not be able to control all that happens to us, we can control what happens inside us.
When you take a man as he is, you make him worse. When you take a man as he can be, you make him better.
As you consider colleges, start by thinking about yourself, and then work toward choosing a school that fits who you truly are.
Cycling is better at increasing fitness than walking, as it gets your heart rate up and utilizes all of the major muscle groups.
High blood pressure can accelerate brain shrinkage as you age.
Strange as it seems, it's okay to feel bad sometimes, because we are meant to experience a wide spectrum of moods.
People are lonely since they build walls instead of bridges.
If a man is proud of his wealth, he should not be praised until it is known how he employs it.
We have natural climate change, which has been going on since the world began.
Really great people see potential everywhere because there really is potential everywhere. if you have the right attitude.
During World War I, Marie Curie persuaded wealthy people to donate their cars so that mobile X-ray machines could be used to locate bullets in wounded soldiers.
I worked in the new products department, and it was so secret that nobody else in the company knew what we did.
The instructor has been speaking so fluently and brilliantly that it seems more like a quarter of an hour.
Satellites circling the Earth now have such powerful cameras that they can be used to spy on individual people on the Earth's surface.
The country's chronic unemployment problem was of such importance that the government could not afford to ignore it.
Fortunately for us, we had bought the house at a low period and sold not at the peak but close enough so that we got a profit out of the deal.
The strong winds of typhoons get their energy from warm ocean waters, so they disappear quickly over cooler, drier areas.
There are two ways to live. You can live as if nothing is a miracle. You can live as if everything is a miracle.
Even if you don't start out with much, if you work hard and do what you're supposed to do, then you should be able to build a decent life for yourself and an even better life for your kids and grandkids.
In his last years, Beethoven created his Ninth Symphony, one of the best-known works in classical music, even though he couldn't hear his own music.
There is an expiry date on blaming your parents for steering you in the wrong direction. The moment you are old enough to take the wheel, responsibility lies with you.
The maestro said, by the time he was 11 or 12, the young virtuoso possessed one of the greatest techniques of all time.
I find television very educating. Every time somebody turns on the set, I go into the other room and read a book.
Seeing that the amount of money involved is huge, it is not surprising that top-selling beverages have advertising budgets in excess of $1 billion.
All truths are easy to understand once they are discovered. The point is to discover them.
Now that the exam is over, you are eager to find out how well you did, and the next stressful part of the exam begins, waiting.
You can experience the solar eclipse safely, provided you use proper eye protection.
I thought the building felt very cold in that there were only walls and doors, no decorations.
The human mind treats a new idea the way the body treats a strange protein. It rejects it.
As an exception, private information can be accessed in case there is an official legal request.
No sooner had the pianist finished his performance than the audience gave him a big hand.
He had hardly arrived when his wife started to shower him with questions.
Treat everyone with politeness, even those who are rude to you, not because they are nice, but because you are.
Create a definite plan for carrying out your desire and begin at once, whether you are ready or not, to put this plan into action.
Science is facts. Just as houses are made of stones, so is science made of facts. But a pile of stones is not a house, and a collection of facts is not necessarily science.
Sharks continue to produce new teeth as long as they are alive, which is why shark teeth can often be found washed onto beaches.
Research points out it will not be long before many countries lack the younger workforce they need to compete.
There are many different paths to happiness and success. Just because someone isn't following yours, it doesn't mean they've gotten lost.
Unless you're trying to lose weight to please yourself, it's going to be tough to keep your motivation level high.
A lot of times, people don't know what they want until you show it to them.
Don't be angry at a friend who told your secret, for neither could you keep it to yourself.
Whatever the good or bad things in your life are, they're bound to change.
No matter how far you have gone on a wrong road, turn back.
챕터 12. 부사적 수식어 2. 분사구문.
Recognizing the healing power of humor, Many hospitals are starting to take laughing matters seriously.
Everyone is trying to accomplish something big, not realizing that life is made up of little things.
Not knowing what to do at the moment, she buried her face in his shoulder.
Chess is like other sports. Wanting to be good, you have to practice, and you have to be in shape, mental and physical shape.
Selecting plants to grow in your backyard, you could consider the atmosphere of your yard.
Travel while you can, sacrificing other things if necessary to do so. Looking back on their travel adventures as highlights of their lives, most people regret not having traveled more.
Having healed numerous individuals from malaria, quina is a very useful medicinal plant.
Being produced and thrown away. Paper books produce environmental waste.
Having been invited so many times, I felt I couldn't turn them down again.
Previously known as Bombay, the city was renamed Mumbai, which was derived from the goddess Mumba in 1995, as part of a movement away from colonial names.
Unless accompanied by adults, children under 12 aren't allowed to see this film.
When tempted to fight fire with fire, remember that the fire department usually uses water.
Once having made a promise, you should keep your word.
A man of supreme power. He has reigned over the country for the last 10 years.
Unaware of their part in the experiment, the participants were given a placebo drug.
Bats are surprisingly long-lived creatures, some having a life expectancy of around 20 years.
The speaker went on and on, the audience getting more and more bored by the minute.
One of the greatest civilizations of ancient times was the Egyptian. The ancient Egyptians excelled in many areas of science, one of these being dentistry.
When keeping a diary, it is important to carefully record dates and places.
Generally speaking, the truth of history is that it is a story that has been agreed upon.
Judging from the many unusual circumstances surrounding this accident, the police need to investigate the cause thoroughly.
With oil prices rising during this month, many people are looking to public transportation for their daily commute.
When eating with others, remember not to speak with food in your mouth, and when chewing, do so with your mouth closed.
Doing things that require concentration with your TV turned on is an undesirable habit that makes you less productive.
챕터 13. 비교, 상관구문 병렬 구조.
A rumor is as hard to unspread as butter.
Telling the truth and making someone cry is just as bad as telling a lie and making someone smile.
Sunspots are almost as much of a mystery now as in Galileo's time.
Raising a child as adoptive parents is no less noble than being birth parents.
Failure is no more fatal than success is permanent.
Even a short pencil is more reliable than the longest memory.
My proposal is less attractive than the other plans, but would be less expensive to implement.
People can live in the Arctic region because the climate is far warmer and the winds are milder than in the Antarctic. Only research scientists live in the Antarctic.
Bystanders sometimes see more than those who play the game.
Plenty of light is not less necessary than fresh air for good health.
The important thing in science is not so much to obtain new facts as to discover new ways of thinking about them.
In life, what happens to you isn't as important as what happens in you.
A person who can speak many languages is not more valuable than a person who can listen in one.
The flower that blooms in adversity is the most rare and beautiful of all.
The greatest education in the world is watching the masters at work.
Speak when you are angry, and you will make the best speech you'll ever regret.
There is no revenge so complete as forgiveness.
There is nothing more dreadful than the habit of doubt. It is a poison that disintegrates friendships and breaks up pleasant relations.
Although body language seems rather natural to us and almost inherently meaningful, it is more arbitrary than any other form of communication.
The supervisor works as diligently as any member of the staff I know in this company. It's no wonder he won the Employee of the Year award.
The more man meditates upon good thoughts, the better will be his world and the world at large.
I think of life as a good book. The further you get into it, the more it begins to make sense.
The quicker you know what you want to do, career-wise, the better. This gives stronger reasons to apply yourself when, for example, everyone else is out there partying.
Throughout human history, people have been trying to send information faster and faster and store information in smaller and smaller media.
If you don't understand something you were taught in class today, treat it as a bug that must be fixed as soon as possible.
When you're typing with your thumbs, you need to save your effort by communicating with as few letters as possible. So text message symbols were created as shorthand for users.
The best and most beautiful things in the world cannot be seen or even touched. They must be felt with the heart.
Both optimists and pessimists contribute to our society. The optimist invents the airplane, and the pessimist the parachute.
The past can hurt, but the way I see it, you can either run from it or learn from it.
Helen Keller could neither hear nor see, but she traveled all over America, giving speeches and raising funds for the blind.
Perfection is achieved not when there is nothing more to add, but when there is nothing left to take away.
Progress is made, not only by the efforts of the rich and powerful, but also by the collective struggles of everyday individuals.
To give counsel as well as to take it is a feature of true friendship.
From the 5th to the 15th century, barbers performed many services, including cutting hair, pulling teeth, and treating medical conditions.
This leaflet contains important patient information about the medication and should be read completely before beginning treatment.
Many kinds of animal behavior are the result of habit rather than of instinct. And animal habits, like human customs, can be changed quite rapidly.
You are never too old to set another goal or to dream a new dream.
Let us not be content to wait and see what will happen, but give us the determination to make the right things happen.
Success does not consist in never making blunders, but in never making the same one a second time.
Rest is not idleness, and to lie sometimes on the grass under trees, listening to the murmur of the water, or watching the clouds float across the sky, is by no means a waste of time.
Like an artist who pursues both enduring excellence and shocking creativity, great companies foster a tension between continuity and change.
Our life's a stage. Either learn to play and take it lightly, or bear its troubles patiently.
Responding to a request with an absolute, "There's just no way I can do that, but good luck," is a greater favor than answering with a "maybe" that's never going to happen.
챕터 14 특수구문
Not only does a pet provide company, but it has to be fed, exercised, and cleaned. Owners feel needed by their pets.
Seldom is an angry person reasonable. Seldom is a reasonable person angry.
Only after talking on the phone for more than 10 minutes did she finally understand that performance was canceled.
Under no circumstances is a user of this website allowed to have more than one account.
Anyone can learn directly from experience, but rare and wise are those who learn from the experience of others.
So powerful is the sense of obligation to return a favor that it affects our daily lives very much.
When the tree's leaves die, so does its ability to produce food through photosynthesis.
Neither can you hug yourself, nor can you cry on your own shoulder. Life is all about sharing and communicating.
Dreams feel real while we're in them. It's only when we wake up that we realize something was actually strange.
It was not until the turn of the last century that motion pictures began to exert their influence on mass culture as we know it today.
Although people who belong to the same age group differ in many other ways, most of them do share a set of values and common cultural experiences that they carry throughout life.
We cannot solve life's problems unless we solve them ourselves.
The very spring and root of honesty and virtue lie in good education.
The liar's punishment is not in the least that he is not believed, but that he cannot believe anyone else.
Don't judge each day by the harvest you reap, but by the seeds you plant.
Do your best to complete a task on time, even when it is impossible to.
I believe that every right implies a responsibility, every opportunity an obligation, every possession a duty.
We cannot be sure of having something to live for unless willing to die for it.
Words are easily identified when part of a conversation, but harder to recognize if presented alone.
If you go in for an argument, take care of your temper. Your logic, if any, will take care of itself.
In many cases, stress is caused, not by the event itself, but rather by our response to the event.
Keeping a diary means putting down what we have done, what we thought of, or what has happened. Keeping a diary can reflect our life.
Our early ancestors may have used the fingers of their hands or cut notches on tree branches to indicate how many apples they had picked that day.
I have always taught my children that politeness, learning, and order are good things, and that something good is to be desired and developed for its own sake.
A good marriage is one which allows for change and growth in both individuals and in the way they express their love.
A good name, like goodwill, is got by many actions and lost by one.
Writing English, not only reading it, helps you become a fluent speaker of it.
Anger, if not restrained, is frequently more hurtful to us than the injury that provokes it.
Robots can do work which, while not physically dangerous, is so repetitious and dull that it debases any human mind that must engage in it for long periods of time.
Every time you state what you want or believe, you're the first to hear it. It's a message to both you and others about what you think is possible.
Teachers must put the brakes on, as it were, when they notice students looking puzzled.
Evidence suggests that fish oil boosts serotonin, a neurotransmitter known for its feel-good qualities.
The term blue chip comes from the color of the poker chip with the highest value, blue.
There are two ways of spreading light: to be the candle or to be the mirror that reflects it.
The fear of saying something stupid, which stupid people never have, has censored far more good ideas than bad ones.
Aesthetics, or the science of beauty, has gained immense popularity over recent years.
Courage is not the absence of fear, but rather the judgment that something is more important than fear.
You shouldn't miss the fact that first impressions do not have a lasting effect on relationships between people.
The notion must be overcome that we must be regular, because it robs you of the chance to be extraordinary and leads you to the mediocre.
There are many different genres of art, and they don't all appeal to every visitor to a museum.
If you cannot decide which of the two things to do, you are likely to get yourself into trouble by doing neither.
Apologizing does not always mean that you're wrong and the other person is right. It just means that you value your relationship more than your ego.
All change is not growth, as all movement is not forward.
The greatest leader is not necessarily the one who does the greatest things. He is the one that gets the people to do the greatest things.
Nothing great will ever be achieved without great men, and men are great only if they are determined to be so.
Great opportunities come to all, but many do not know they have met them. The only preparation to take advantage of them is simple fidelity to what each day brings.
Not only is a wise use of leisure a mark of a cultured man, but the value he places on privacy in the use of it is another.
Courage is the greatest of all the virtues, because if you don't have courage, you may not have an opportunity to use any of the others.
Be as careful of the books you read as of the company you keep, for your habits and character will be as much influenced by the former as by the latter.
Being a parent is such a huge responsibility, but the other side of the coin is that it is one of the most exciting and enjoyable things you can do.
My grandfather once told me that there were two kinds of people, those who do the work and those who take the credit. He told me to try to be in the first group. There was much less competition.